how the GenAI revolution is impacting sustainability. And we will also hear about her inspiring career journey and etc. Padmashri, over to you. Could you please like to tell me more about yourself and your role?
Sure, Anchal. You already said that. So I head Insights and Data Global Business Line for Capgemini,
Yeah,
India.
correct.
So we do everything to do from data all the way to AI. So that's what the team does here with me. I have close to 3 decades of experience. Good part of it is in analytics, data science, AI, and data itself, and have experience across multiple industries. Started way back in manufacturing as well, and then financial services, insurance, etc. So that's my quick past. Um, that's me, Anchal.
Thank you for introducing yourself. So, to begin with, I want to understand that how is the growing adoption of generative AI is shaping the sustainability conversation within the tech industry.
That surely is an interesting question, Anchal. Why am I saying this interesting is because it's kind of a double-edged sword of sorts, right? So what I mean is, we all know that GenAI has immense potential, immense opportunities that it can generate. We know that GenAI itself can be a cure, or suggest the right remedies for the sustainability initiatives globally. And at the same time, it comes with its own challenges. And I'm sure the AI, Gen AI, and then the agentic journey is going to solve for itself as well as we move forward. But it is important for all of us to talk about the current challenges that it brings to the fore and the conversations that are on with respect to what Gen AI is doing to the world, generating the carbon footprint that it is as we speak. Um, we all know that it is an energy guzzler. Um, Huge energy consumption while training the Gen AI models. Everybody is talking about it already. We will, as we move with this conversation, move ahead in this conversation, talk a few more
Yeah.
other impacts that it has. But long story short, I'm hoping AI, Gen AI is going to number one, be positive to the world of, bringing the world and making the world more sustainable. Can solve many of the issues like climate modeling, for instance, smart infrastructure in the material discovery, supply chain, so on and so forth. There's a lot that it can do, and it is already doing. There are so many startups, which has sprung up, which is working on all these aspects. But all this is definitely coming with the fear, the worry in the mind of the carbon footprint itself that it is leaving as it is
Yeah.
moving on this journey. And we'll talk a little bit more about it, I'm sure, as we move forward. Achal.
Yeah, that's a great overview which you have given. And while there's a lot of excitement around generative AI, and we are also seeing growing concerns about its environmental footprint. So, in your view, what are some of the most overlooked environmental impacts of generative AI today, and why are they significant?
Absolutely, yes. As I just was talking about in the previous response, most of the conversations today of the environmental impacts of Gen AI is on the fact that it is an energy guzzler and therefore, huge energy consumption when training the Gen AI models. However, there are many more implications of this training, building, using, and scaling, Gen AI models across multiple use cases as we talk today. First one, which
Okay.
is very, nowadays, I think people have started talking about it, is the water usage.
Right.
Huge water consumption and clean water. Remember, all of the data centers that are used for training these humongous large language models are located in places where, and wherever it is located, it requires a lot of clean water for cooling down these servers, which means that it is consumed. We will need to generate clean water when many of the parts of the world itself is really struggling today with clean water. The question is, this much of fresh water for cooling purposes, is it worth it? Hmm? There are many more. Let me go on with a few others, which is just coming up to my mind, for instance, right? So e-waste. I don't
Yeah,
think we are talking too much about the e-wastes that are getting generated for the hardware that is used for Gen AI purposes, right? To even run Gen AI, today we have many of these chips, GPUs, TPUs that are being created. We'll talk a little bit about it as we move forward, but all of these have these rare earth minerals, and many of these components, like the cobalts or the lithiums of the world, cannot be recycled. Or it is more, I'll put it this way, it's more difficult to recycle it. And that itself can consume a lot of energy. And these are toxic e-wastes. There's little that is being talked about such like things. There is also, usage of so much of while we are talking so much about the training aspect of the Gen AI or the LLMs and all the models, nobody is talking about the fact that the usage of this, right?
yeah,
You and I keep chatting to the chatbots and the perplexities of the world. The usage itself is consuming truckload of energy and the water wastage, etc., etc. And it's not just the commercial or the sorry, it's not just the use of you and me of the whole thing, but even organizations and are implementing it across many processes, etc. Imagine the size that we are talking about. So there is embedded carbon in AI development as well as use. Hmm? And there is little talk about the data pipelines created, etc. But we will talk more about it, Anchal, as we move into the conversation. Yeah.
yeah, very well put. Because with reports indicating that increased energy consumption and emissions are I mean, contributing to this rise of emission, and
Mm-hmm.
dangers are taking backseat. So, like you have mentioned, the chat GPT itself we are using, even if
Yes,
we are giving a prompt, it will take a lot of
indeed.
consumption. So, how can organizations strike a balance between building cutting edge AI and staying environmentally responsible?
Excellent question. So
Yeah.
here is where it is, right? So when we talk about regulations with respect to AI, Gen AI, um, there are, I can think about a couple of them which have sprung up, like the EU AI Act, or in US, I think it's called the National AI Initiative 2020 timeframe. Yeah. Um, and all of these talk about AI governance, how it has to be done, etc. But there is very little or no conversation or policy or regulation with respect to sustainability in the development and usage of Gen AI, right? Um, and it is all under the larger bucket of the EU Act, etc. It will come in indirectly, but there is no direct uh, focus with respect to sustainability KPIs for AI use or creation. So this is something that we all need to understand. With this being the situation, I'm just setting the context. We all need to understand and embed it within our culture as we start proliferating Gen AI across our organizations for many of the users that we are talking about. It is up to us to start putting in those guardrails for ensuring that we do not we kind of create a sustainable environment for um, use of these Gen AI models. Let me just double click a little bit more on this, right? Um,
Okay.
it is important for all of us to kind of focus on prioritizing energy efficient AI. What do I mean by energy efficient AI? Many of these models, large language models that we are talking about, are being
Yeah.
built on millions of parameters that we all know about. But there are many, many different ways of downsizing this and using it as we implement it for our use cases. Like you could quantize it, or you could use a distilled model, you could do a sparse model. Now, all of these are the same, architecture that I am talking about, but you're able to tweak the architecture to make it shrink the size of the model when you're running the model. So that is one way to definitely see how you're not actually utilizing the entire resources that is available for solving a small problem that you're actually going behind. So there are these responsible ways of shrinking the size of the model as you run. It is also important to look at, how and where are these models that you are training and using hosted. It's important for companies to start thinking about, where is the cloud? Is this a green cloud that I am using? Most of the hyperscalers, and there are many other green data centers that have sprung up all over. And it's important for us to know, where are we using? Are these green data centers really green? They are using renewable energy, so on and so forth, right? So it is important for us to establish, where are we using this from, right? Moving on, you could also think about, having these AI governance in place, which will
Right.
go ahead and measure, for instance, the sustainability KPIs within. What do I mean by that? Today, when we talk about AI governance, we talk a lot about the fact that accuracy is important, bias should be avoided, secure, it should be secure, and so on and so forth. So there are so many metrics that we use to ensure that the AI is within the limits with respect to the cost or whatever for the company. I'll come to the cost in a little bit, but those are the governance KPIs that we use. Why not go ahead and use other KPIs, such as how much of a carbon footprint are we leaving with respect to usage of AI, right? Why not start looking at metrics like life cycle emissions, right? Across
Mhm.
building and use of AI, right? So all of these, and what is the e-waste coming out of it? If we can start measuring all these things, I think over a period of time, we will be able to also solve for, how do you reduce this footprint that you are currently using? You see? So, long
Right.
story short, look at your model, look at your hardware, look at how you are using it responsibly. I will also talk about some frameworks and other things as we move, right? Or, I'll introduce that. But these are some of the things I feel that, organizations can use to balance it out, Anchal.
Yeah, right. Of course, like you mentioned, so there is a surge and innovation comes with, the serious and timely concern as well. Uh, the solution you have mentioned. So, what are the challenges, biggest challenges organizations are facing when they are trying to measure and mitigate the environmental impact of generative AI? And is it a data problem or a
Mm,
governance issue or both? Especially for India, because uh, in the global scenario, we are seeing that regulators are moving swiftly to define AI guardrails, like you mentioned, and India is still catching up. So,
correct.
what is your thought? Yeah.
Correct. So you said it well. To start with, I think there is even a lack of standardized metrics
Hmm.
to find out the environmental footprint of AI models. Hmm? Look at it, the carbon emissions for training, inference, data pipelines, e-waste, and all of these, we don't even have a standardized methodology to, or the metrics that is used across seamlessly to be able to measure this. There is, the cloud infrastructure, whilst now more and more hyperscalers are talking about uh, green data center, which they call out clearly, and we can actually go ahead and use it. In fact, Capgemini also does that quite a bit. Many of the others are opaque. It's not clear to people as to where are their AI engines hosted, for instance, right? It's becoming very difficult. That's another challenge, I could say. Again, we talk a lot about impact at the stage of training. We talk a little, very little, when it comes to impact during the inference time, the inference cost itself, right? Cost to environment of those millions of inferences that the Gen AIs are making day to day. Think
Right.
about the data pipelines, Anchal. Data pipelines are many, 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 right? So if you have
Yeah.
to have millions and trillions of parameters that are used for training and inferencing, how are these data being brought together? The pipelines that are there, it can be whatever data ecosystems, it can be whatever, but all of these have to move, right? All of these have a indirect footprint that it leaves to have an impact on the Gen AI running across. Then the storage cost, then the maintenance cost, and so on and so forth. So there is a complete complexity with respect to where all can it have the first degree, second degree impact on environment, right? Throughout the life cycle of Gen AI, for instance, there has to be a culture. I think currently many of us are in a rush to either create a unique model of its
Yes.
sorts, right? Or we are in the rush to say, hey, I'm using Gen AI for productivity gains. I'm using Gen AI here. Using it there, etc., etc. There is, I think, then we need to build this culture to say, fine, are we using it for the right cause? Are we using
Mhm.
it for the purpose of you know when you're actually doing a ROI within the organization of using Gen AI versus not using, are we really extending this ROI to look at the costs beyond just the dollar cost? And we need to start including the environment costs towards it, right? Um, so many things that we can go on around this. But I guess these are the top of the mind call outs that is coming to my mind with respect to yeah. So I talked about the acts, I talked about the regulation. Broadly, I think these are the big challenges, if I could call out, Anshul. Hmm?
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that sustainability should be a core pillar in AI framework, governance framework, and what might that actually look like when implemented within enterprise structures?
Absolutely, right. So there is no doubt in answering this question of whether it should be a core pillar. I've been and we as Capgemini have always been talking about the fact that when we say responsible AI, the responsibility not just comes from the cost angle or the human in the loop, but also ensuring that we leave sustainable footprints as we move into this journey. Hmm? Um, we did talk about the environmental impact. We did talk about many other aspects here. Um, you know, for the governance pillar as such, huh? Alongside the traditional pillars, as I told you a little while back, right? So be
Yes.
it fairness, accountability, transparency, let's start using many of these sustainable metrics alongside. Assess the long-term inference footprint, for instance. There are many tools that are available today, like the Hugging Faces carbon emission tracker, if I'm right, and many such things. There are green algorithms, etc. I think we should start using those things within the thing. Um, I do want to call out this open source piece as well, Anchal. So many a times, what is happening today is that we are becoming closed when it comes to building Gen AI models.
Yeah.
Open culture can actually lead us to reuse many of the trained models. You don't have to go ahead and retrain them again on the same set of data, etc. Right? So there is a need for us to get into this culture of open source. and probably call it a green AI first kind of a thinking that we should start talking about. Hmm? So some of these things, right? So, start measuring emissions per model deployment. Why not start talking about emissions per 1,000 inferences? We are already talking about such things. I think it's important for us to start embedding this in our day-to-day way of, implementing AI, Gen AI.
And coming to Capgemini, how are you working with your clients, especially in the market like India, to embed sustainability principles into their Gen AI strategies?
Absolutely. So before I get into that, right? So a quick sidebar comment on how we see sustainability from
Yeah,
Capgemini's
sure.
perspective, especially Capgemini India, because that's what you all were talking about as well, right? So we are 100% renewable usage across all facilities in India. All facilities in India.
Yeah.
Now, why I'm bringing this point is we also have a energy command center, Archit. This is powered again by AI, Gen AI, so that's more important, and we are proud to call this out. And this command center actually monitors many of our other offices, and we are very proud to call it out as Capgemini India, especially. So this
So where is the
responsibility,
center, command
it's in
center?
Bangalore. It's in
All
Bangalore.
right. Okay.
Right? So this responsibility is absolutely embedded in our culture. And everything that we build for our clients, we put this parameter of carbon calculation within the GenAI frameworks. We have a solution platform called RAISE. It's Reliable AI Solution Engineering, which
Okay.
if you will look at it's basically a platform for helping our clients to scale their Gen AI things. Scaling, when I'm saying, is how do you reuse some of the components? How do you have use case templates within that? How do you build um, pipelines, data pipelines, common data pipelines, and not create multiplicity of the same. Um, it also takes care of FinOps, cost ops, right? Which is also a corollary. All of what I'm talking about also
Right.
ensures that our clients leave lesser CO2 footprint as they walk the path. It is also for risk, etc. But what is more important amidst all that I'm talking about is there is a carbon calculation integrated as a service and to monitor the CO2 footprint within. So this is something that we have taken it up as a responsibility towards the environment, and we embed this. This is something that we do along the RAISE implementations or all of our Gen AI. We also have Sustainability Data Hub. This is to help for our clients to be able to monitor, report on ESG, and all of these platforms and solutions that I'm talking about, Anchal, is built primarily from India. And that's the reason I'm bringing and very proud to be calling that out, that it is Capgemini India doing all this, many of these work as well. Beyond this, we are also, we run something called a Global Data Science Challenge within every year and invite people across the globe. This is a global initiative wherein we pick up a sustainability challenge and ask for our employees to come ahead and solve for it. So many such, we are on the UN Sustainability Data Development Goals. This is about, where data and AI for good, we participate in that. So we do a lot of other things as well. But this is how we kind of ensure and give it back, Anchal.
Any example, like you're helping your clients embed sustainability into their Gen AI strategy? Can you share any example from India or global market?
Mhm. When you're saying example, how is that what you're asking, Anchal?
How are you
I,
helping your clients to
sure,
embed
sure.
these? Yeah,
Sure, sure, sure. So I did talk about raise quickly.
yes.
That is one way where we help them to reuse, reduce the footprints by, a lot of small and big um, uh, uh, things incorporated for, be it reuse of the vector databases, so on and so forth. So that is one thing that I talked about. The other thing is we urge and, we walk the path of, ensuring that smaller models where the large models are not necessarily needed. Okay. This could be in two, three ways. You can build SLMs, for instance, or you could shrink the size of usage of these models. I talked about distillation, quantization,
Right.
sparse models. So we help our clients in doing these things. That is the second way we help in responsible model implementations. We also have, as Capgemini, invested in a company called Liquid AI. This is a very interesting company. They don't run LLMs. We call it LFMs, Liquid Foundation Models. This is, inspired by this nematode worm, if I'm right, which has only 302 neurons. We are on one side talking about millions of neurons. This 302 neurons, and this is we actually this company has already started building models on this, and seeing good value out of it. If you'll go search for it, you'll find it out. But these liquid models, they adapt better over time and are, especially suited for real-time decision making in time series data, etc. So there are, we are trying newer things. Of course, this is an investment in a company, which is Liquid AI, but we do, and therefore we continuously watch this company to see how it is, and wherever we could embed that, we go back and do that. We also encourage our clients to, kind of use, there are AI chips which are very specific, right? So many of these, like the NVIDIA Grasshopper super chips, we encourage our clients wherever it is used, needed, right? We encourage those kind of alternates, right? And green data centers. Edge AI is another excellent way to encourage reduced carbon footprint on AI, to take AI to the edge rather than, serving centrally, right? Because the data, data is used right there, right? So the edge devices are a very excellent way. So we also do many edge AI solutions as we speak, right? So and also, reusable foundation models, so on and so forth, Anchal. So that is how we kind of do this. And as I said, sustainability reporting is a favorite thing of us, and we kind of have implemented through our race on how do you monitor this, and therefore helping our clients to be able to do this.
And are you using any kind of metrics or benchmark that while developing and deploying AI solutions for your internal sustainability?
Of course. So all that I talked about right now, we build for our internal systems extensively.
Okay.
Right? Be it for our group corporate functions, right? For our
Hmm.
finance, for our HR, we build AI, Gen AI models for them. We also use it for our own developments that we do for our clients, right? Not just value generating ones, but also across the delivery life cycles. And in all of these, Anshul, this is, measuring, the carbon footprint is an inherent part of what we do. And as I said, Capgemini, we ourselves, we ensure that we use green data centers. And these are all, we have policies which are clearly mandating these things for us. And we also recommend this and urge our clients also to start looking at the pointers that I was just talking about through and through the conversation.
All right. Thanks for sharing this. And what are some of the most promising innovations or trends that could help make generative AI more sustainable over the next 3 to 5 years?
That's an excellent question. So first thing, let's just break it down, right? So of course, you talked about innovations.
Yes.
I would say it's important for us to have policies, right? So whenever you're talking about bringing a change which is positive, it's important that we have the right policies in place. We have, therefore, right metrics to measure. We have a way to report it. We have a way to review it, and we have a way to audit it. Okay. So this should happen across the life cycle of all GenAI projects. And today, with the number of implementations happening across, it is paramount that we start doing this across the life cycle. So first part of it, as I said, this is this. The second thing is the liquid AI kind of solutions that I was talking about, which is very different. This is innovation at a different scale. While all of the world is moving towards consuming truckload of data to be able to spit out those inferences that it is spitting today, looking at a model and inspired by a worm's brain, think about it, right? So those are some of real innovations that are really happening elsewhere, and we should be conscious of all of these developments. And a lot is happening in the SLM, small language model space, Anchal. Um, Coming to industry specific models, there is a lot that is happening there, because that again need not have the large footprint that currently these models have, but we could actually shrink the size of the model, right? Not go with the entire weights, entire parameters usage. Bring it down like the sparse models that I talked about. That is a nice innovation, I feel, for smaller use cases that we are doing across, right? What else? What else can I think about? And I talked about the lot of these smaller super chips that are coming through, right?
AI chips.
Google's TPUs. I think that's a great example, which is optimized for energy efficiency for running AI models, right? So it's important for us to look at each of these stages and start picking up those and start incorporating it in our day-to-day implementations. And that's what we try to do, right? And there are again, we talked a lot about data center, but there are very good ones also, Vern Global, many others that I've seen, I think, which are there, which this thing go for reusable foundation models. Transformer architecture itself is, we need to is a very complex, and it is not a energy efficient architecture. So we really need to think about it and start building models which need not necessarily take this framework, but start looking at other types of frameworks. So yes, so there is potential.
Yeah.
There is a lot of thinking, innovation happening in this space, but we still have a long way to get there, I feel, Anchal. It's not already there. But I think responsible use of creation and use of AI across can slowly and steadily get us there. That's how I will think about the innovations. But there are many happening as we speak.
Wonderful, Padmashri, for the thoughtful insights. Like you mentioned in the beginning, the clean water is being used in the liquid cooling and the uh, data centers. So, what do you think leaders need to prioritize right now? And when you look at the future of generative AI, data sustainability, what gives you hope about it?
What gives me hope is humanity. So human in the loop, right?
Okay.
That's fundamental. Um,
Yeah.
as I said, there are a fair amount of innovations happening to reduce this footprint across and the consciousness with respect to usage. So let's get back to the same example, right? So the data centers, and you called out water usage. Um,
Yes.
uh, a few years back, the large, hyperscalers weren't really talking about where their data centers are located, how it is being, kept in whatever form and shape. That conversation itself wasn't happening. Today, uh, people like us, organizations like us, have started asking, and also they have started publishing where are these, right? And we want to
Yeah.
ensure that we go to those green data centers. There are a lot more innovations happening on that side also. The more you read about it, it's absolutely fascinating. For instance, the heat that is generated from these data centers for which the cooling system happens, if there is a way to use this heat for heating systems, okay, of hospitals. I know of examples where they are actually using the heat generated from the data center to heat up
Okay.
in the northern regions of the globe, the
Wow.
hospitals and homes and etc. So there are many different such uh, innovative use cases that are getting generated today as we speak, and that is what gives me hope, the way you asked me, Anjal. So it is going in that direction. But if you will ask me, what is important is for us to quickly have a regulation and a framework that will allow us to
Mhm.
consistently measure all these things, report, and everything that starts getting measured and reported starts getting followed and becomes deeper into our culture as well. So that's how I would look at this cycle.
Yeah, great. I think this is the end. I'm done with my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Well, I think I said it all. It's important for all of us to start thinking about
Being
sustainability as
responsible.
we build and implement Gen AI solutions across. And I'm very positive that we will walk in that direction. Anjali.
Thank you so much for your insights, not just on the environmental impact, but also that kind of leadership we actually need right now for the responsible innovations. I wish you and your team at Capgemini continued success. Thank you so much.